Welcome to Le Bus, or the Bus of Greatness as we're calling it today. I am getting to pick up one of my very close friends, Lewis Howes. Lewis has a top 25 podcast in the world called The School of Greatness, where he is impacting millions of people in a positive way all over the world. He's a super nice guy. He's been on the Ellen Show lately, and he actually used to play arena football. So, buckle up. Let's check it out. I want to see the shot of greatness from you. We do one shot of greatness to start this off. No, you're shooting it.
I'll see if you can make it first.
You go first. You put the pressure on me?
Good trajectory.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that. There's a lot of factors at this point that are not played to it. It's a wind. It's probably about a 30-degree wind. Oh yeah, dude, we're not playing around. That's a Jennifer touch. She tries to make me a lot classier. Here we are. Welcome to the Bus of Greatness today.
Yes.
We're taking it over. Can we steal that? Can this be the Bus of Greatness now?
Lewis Howes. Is it a bus or an RV?
Well, I like to say bus because we termed it, my last name LeBeau, Le Bus. It just flows better, but it's technically an RV/motorhome.
It's cool though.
You're a detail guy. Yeah. What do you think?
It's cool, man. Yeah, I like it.
Could you roll around in one of these?
It's a conversation starter, you know? It's cool.
Yeah, especially when you're filling up gas and your picture's right above you and people are looking at you and you're like, I feel like such a, like I want to keep a low profile, but how can I, like, I'm the one here with the bus, like, it's just a little awkward. It gets a little weird sometimes.
And you're taking this on a tour around the country or what?
Yep. So we went from, actually, funny story, went from here to Phoenix through the Midwest, did a bunch of schools, spoke in, like, in Iowa, we did like 20 schools in 4 or 5 days. It was like, and I brought 2 guys who also have no clue about RVs or running them. We went through these crazy storms, thunderstorm, tornado storm, and there was some flooding at one point. And and we somehow made it all the way to the East Coast and did some schools in Virginia Beach, touched the ocean, and then brought it back. Didn't kill anybody, didn't kill ourselves. Definitely had a few close calls, but learned a lot.
Amazing.
Learned a lot.
Did you drive?
Oh yeah, I was driving a bunch.
A lot, wow.
Yeah, and the 2 other guys, they drove a little bit too, and they were terrified. Like when we first started, they were like, "We're not driving." I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to."
Yeah.
So they started driving, and they got into it, and they were great, and it was really fun. But yeah, man, it's been an adventure. It's been a learning experience for sure.
That's great. Congrats on it all. It's very cool.
Dude, so tell me about this morning. You said you were talking to a pretty interesting guy. What was that about? Yeah,
Michael Gervais. He's a high performance psychologist who works with elite athletes, high performers, executives, Olympians, training the mind.
Yeah.
And he talks about, 30 years ago or more, we realized that we could get bigger, faster, and stronger in sports. So we hired strength and conditioning coaches.
Yes.
And then we got facilities to help people get stronger. Then we needed better doctors to help people recover from the injuries they were having because they were getting bigger, faster, stronger. So we needed people to be able to recover faster to get back on the field, on the court.
Yeah.
And now and then it was nutritionists. Then we realized, the things we're eating, maybe we shouldn't have alcohol every night like we used to 60 years ago after a football game, right? Now it's like...
Babe Ruth, wasn't he hitting home runs with cigars?
Exactly,
It might have been, I said that the other day, I'm like, pretty sure he was smoking a cigar when he hit that home run.
He might have been, who knows?
Yeah. Athlete, true athlete.
Exactly. And so he was mentioning, then we had nutritionists because we realized that what we put in our bodies will help us perform better as well, or recover faster, things like that. And he says now we're on this wave of training the mind. So I think he mentioned something like 6 to 8 years ago, there were only a few sports psychologists that were being hired by teams full time, and now it's in the NFL, and now it's more like half the teams have sports psychologists or some type of mental performance coach. And even in the show, I think on Showtime, Billions.
Okay.
One of the main roles. I don't know if you've seen this show.
I've been into Ballers.
Ballers is amazing.
Okay, yeah, I've been into that one.
Watch Billions. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
But there's one of the main characters is essentially like a high performance coach, mental coach, to help these stock traders take bigger risks and have confidence in such a high stakes type of game environment. So he was talking about training the mind and how this is the new wave of we've covered everything else, the body, the nutrition, the strength and training, the doctors. Now it's the mind and what we can do in our sports or as a speaker or whatever, doing any type of high performance act when we have the mind conditioned. And so it was cool to go over his whole philosophy about how to train the mind. Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from it?
The key to overcoming, fear and anxiety is having first a clear vision a clear philosophy. That's what he talked about. Have a philosophy of who you are and who you want to be in the world. And so most people aren't clear on who they are. And I think it's going to be a constant self-discovery journey for our whole life. Seeing who we are, why we're here. It's a question we probably never fully answer, but
Yeah.
he said once you get a core philosophy of who you are and your mission in life as a human being, then at least you have clarity.
Yeah.
Most people don't have clarity, so they don't have a foundation to build on.
Yeah.
Not saying it's going to eliminate fear from your life. And then after that, it's going through all the practice reps, and there's other imagery he talked about and really focusing on that. But I think it starts with a philosophy of who we are.
Yeah. That's amazing. How many people you think actually go through life and never find that or never realize that's something to have?
Probably a majority.
That's how I feel, right? Like
Majority of people.
I probably locked into that about 3 years ago with this speaking thing. You know, my whole thing up to this point had been basketball, same as you, sports, right? Sports is my identity. This is who I am. This is the story I tell myself. You're the athlete. And then all of a sudden, for me, it ended after college. And it's like, I was super depressed. Like, what do I do now? Like, what is the next move? And then I ended up out here and doing some of the street ball stuff and some of the entertainment stuff. And that led me to like, this can open a door for me to be able to talk to kids, to impact kids.
Yeah.
And when I found that, like the why behind what I'm doing, like my personal mission statement, it made life so much easier. In a lot of ways, it's been difficult too, because it's not an easy endeavor to trace something that isn't traditional.
Right.
Kind of, you know, your whole thing, the lifestyle entrepreneur. It's like, I'm trying to create a new lane that's never been done before, and that's not going to be easy. But when you have that why behind you, guiding you, it makes at least all of your decisions a lot easier. Because it's like, okay, this is where I want to go with this. Is it helping? Is it getting me in front of kids? Am I impacting people? Yes? Okay, then that's a yes.
Right.
Is it derailing me? It's a great opportunity, but it's taking me and sidetracking me from that? It's a no. You know, and I remember my mom, I think, was help editing my book. And my mom, I don't put my mom's age out there, but she's my mom. She's older. And she, as she was going through stuff, she kind of had that moment of like, I've had my whole life serving other people, which isn't a bad thing. It's such an admirable thing. But she was always putting her family first and her kids first and her husband first. And it was like, what is my, like, what is my mission? And here she is, a grown adult who's had 40 or 50 years of life. And it was exciting for her to think, like, hey, even if it's a shorter time, I can find that thing that I wake up excited about.
Sure.
And that was probably one of the most cool things. But that's why I was like, I feel like so many people don't know, and they're just kind of cruising and figuring it out. And that's okay. But it sure helps when...
I think it's just hard to achieve, it's hard to be your authentic self if we don't know who we are. And it's hard to perform at a high level in life when we have a lot of doubt and insecurity and fear or anxiety because we don't know why we're doing it or who we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's just getting clarity about, who we are, and it took me many years to try to figure that out, and I think it evolves and shifts, In high school, I just wanted to be an athlete, and then as our identity changed, it shifts into something different. So just trying to get that core philosophy of who we are first, though.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're clicked into an awesome, a really awesome space right now, and it's very clear vision, and you have a great team around you. When did that click in? Was that more of a, like you said, high school was a different kind of still figuring out life, really.
Yeah.
And then later into your 20s, was it more recent that you kind of found like, hey, this podcast I'm doing can become a full-time thing that helps people?
It's still evolving. As maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I launched the show, I just realized I wanted to continue to learn myself. I realized I didn't know many things at all.
Yeah.
When I hit 30, I was like, wow, I'm actually not that smart, and things I thought I knew, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to learn more. I just wanted to get more answers from smart people.
Yeah.
So I started the process of just interviewing people.
Yeah.
And
so it's kind of not selfishly, but like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, put it out, help other people, but then I can get a front row seat.
That's it. I wanted the information for myself, but I was already doing that without recording it and sharing it. And I said, okay, I could really use these same conversations and give back to the world as well, because most of these people don't hear this information.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give people an opportunity to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think as we continue to learn and grow and achieve, and for me personally, it's just I have opportunities that continue to shift what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, but also it's like staying in the same vision. My vision is to really first pursue my dreams, because I I think if I'm not pursuing my dreams, I'm going to be wondering, well, what am I doing? What's the purpose?
Yeah.
So I'm always in pursuit of things I'm excited about.
Yeah.
And in the process, I want to show people how they can achieve theirs as well.
Yeah.
Pursue theirs.
Yeah.
And whether or not I actually achieve my dreams is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I would like to make it happen so I can bring things full circle. I love those full circle moments, but it's more about having a craft to master on a daily basis and to practice and to see myself grow and get better and see that I'm making an impact on my life in that process and other people's lives. And I think if I can do that, then I feel like I'm on the right path.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you can stop being such a jerk,
Yeah, exactly.
it'll work out. No, man,
Exactly.
it's so fun to hear it because it's like you're so humble about everything. So I'm new in this game, in the podcast game, sitting down with these people, and already in a short time, probably sat down with 15 to 20 people. Like, I have sound bites that just stand out to me that have been blowing me away. And like you're saying, like, I just wanted the information to learn. I've been doing this and I could see that it could help other people. But like, I sat down and it's things that we've heard before, or like, but there's something about connecting with a person and looking them in their eye and hearing their story, and you're just like, it puts everything that you're doing in perspective.
Yeah.
There was one the other day, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head. John Dornbos plays for the Eagles, and does actually he's done the Ellen thing as well in Magic.
Yeah. This guy's cool. I like this guy.
He's amazing, yeah, and his story is incredible.
Is it America's Got Talent too, or something?
Yes, he's on there right now. Actually, he's been him and wifey have been over there with Heidi. He's posting videos with Heidi.
That's cool.
But he's had a pretty, like, one of the most horrific things that could happen to you. I mean, he walked home as a kid, 12 years old, I think, 10, 12 years old, and his father had just murdered his mother.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, his mom's gone, his dad's gone in jail. He walks in on the incident after it just happened, and he's a foster kid.
Wow.
Like, life changed. But for him to overcome that and have such a good perspective on life, and the big takeaway from him was, you got to work hard and treat people right. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, then great things will happen to your life because people want to go to bat for you.
Yeah.
So as a person who's watched you for several years since we first met, when we got out here and played ball a few times, it's been fun to see the reason why you will win and you will succeed is because what you're doing is helping other people so much, and your heart is in the right place, which is really fun to watch.
Thanks, man.
And these people want to go to bat for you because they believe in it. Even your entertainment lawyer, Todd, like, he's like, dude, I was just a fan and I listened to it and someone told me about it, and now, like, I want to help him. You know, and I think it's that spirit of, like we've talked about before, of always looking to give and always looking to help other people first.
That's it, man.
Is so beautiful. So you've done so many of these. It's like 400 now?
530.
530. My bad.
530, yeah.
Dang, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Are there some that just have stood out to you from, like, little takeaways or maybe big stories that have been ones that have just, I mean, it's hard to narrow it down when there's so many.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I had Tony Robbins on 3 times, and the first time for me was kind of like a full circle moment. So that was memorable because of that. But I mean, just, you ask him any question and the next 5 minutes is like always going to blow your mind. It doesn't really matter what he says in my mind. He's always got some type of wisdom to share.
Was that the one on the plane?
The first one was not on the plane.
Okay. I saw the one on the plane too. I was like,
that was the second one was on the plane. Yeah.
Guys, we need to get a plane, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
we need to step our game up.
The bus of greatness. He was great. I mean, I really like understanding. I like interviewing people who are at the top and kind of in the forefront of their sport or their craft, but I also like kind of hearing from people behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So for me, Scooter Braun was a really powerful one because he discovered Justin Bieber, built him up into the sensation that he is, and works with the top artists in the world. So I like to learn from people like him, who now has got his own brand and his own audience as well, but he was really the guy behind the guys and gals for a while. And the way his mind just works on, like, building a brand, building a personality, building a business around an idea is very powerful. I really like Rob Dyrdek just because he's from Ohio and we kind of have that connection, and I've always been a fan of his work and just his his personality and his ability to connect to people and have humor in everything he does, and the media brand that he's built, and he's just, everything he touches is amazing. I love how he's branded, just like everything with that show. Like, I mean, it's entertaining. I spent a day
a Saturday. And I literally just laid in bed and watched like 8 episodes.
It's
I watched 8 or
hilarious.
10 episodes. And
Never gets
he
old.
entertains you, and then he's just a master at integrating the branding of the different lines and everything he works with in there. It's like
he's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. So okay,
so those are great. I mean, there's I don't know, a lot of great individuals. I just had someone on. Her name is Dr. Shafali, and she's got this thing about conscious parenting. And I'm not a parent.
Okay.
I don't have kids, but it was one of the most fascinating interviews I've done. Just how she mentions, how we shouldn't have kids until we've really healed ourselves, how to, forgiven our parents, forgiven ourselves, like until we've worked on ourselves so much so that we don't repeat the trauma that we face as
mess
kids.
up them.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
messed up, but then we're going to mess up them. Okay.
Yeah, and so, I constantly try to learn about things just how to be a better human. Mm-hmm. For me, it's all about how to be a better human being and how to live a better life in all areas in terms of career, finance, business, relationships, which are the key to success in life, relationships, to health and wellness, and emotional, mental fitness. Without our bodies and our health, we can't really perform at higher levels. To then adventure, fun, play, and ultimately spirituality, like connecting to why am I here? What's my purpose? What is this whole experience about?
Yeah.
So many different opinions. And I think it's our job to figure out what it means to us.
Yeah, what works for us.
What it means to us, find our own meaning. And so I'm really fascinated with all these kind of different buckets of life on how I can improve, because just when I think I've figured out one area of my life, something else has got a challenge that I'm like, okay, I need to go work on this part of my life. Or when my business is thriving, maybe my health is off.
Yeah.
Or when my health is on point, my business is struggling. So it's like, how can I have kind of optimize as many parts of my life as possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
the biggest challenge for you right now? And I'll go first. Sleep. Like, I have the hardest time because I don't know.
Going to sleep?
Getting like in a good routine and sleep, because I feel like I have so many things to do. Mm-hmm. I have so many things that I'm working on, need to get done. Like, literally could just be going all the time. That's like, next thing it's keeping me up later than I should, and then I'm not getting up early enough to getting a workout in.
The person I just interviewed, Michael Gervais, this high performance psychologist, was saying that one of the main factors that holds people back from achieving high results is they don't sleep enough. They don't.
Not what I wanted to hear.
Well, it's like they don't recover and sleep enough. He gave me a statistic. He said they've done studies where if they they've done tests with people where they've given them 5 hours of sleep for 5 days in a row, and after the 5th day of only 5 hours of sleep a night, 5 days in a row, normal conditions, everything else in their life.
Yeah.
They weren't able to pass a drug alcohol test of like
the walking
coordination capabilities.
Yeah.
So you have to think about it. If you're not sleeping, and he's like, normal humans, we need 7-8 hours of sleep. Some people are on the fringes, whatever, but when we're running at high performance, if we're not recovered, he talked about recovery as one of the main keys to high performance.
Yeah.
So if you're just like this guy who's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead type of feeling, well, then you're not going to perform high.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting 7-8 hours of good, solid sleep.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a priority, because I know if I'm tired the next day, I'm going to slur my words. I'm going to forget things. I'm going to feel exhausted. I'm not going to be present in my interviews. I'm going to be angrier or frustrated or not patient. And it all starts with sleep and recovery.
Yeah.
So if you want to be great, then you've got to make that one of your missions until you have a routine and you're like, okay, 8 hours, I got it. Whether it's I got to go to bed at 11 and wake up at 7 or...
Yeah.
But it's like...
Consistency.
7 hours minimum, especially if you're training hard, physically and emotionally. Then you probably need 8.
Yeah.
Because your body needs to recover to be able to have that level of, connection to your mission. So, and if you repeat the pattern over and over again for a week, a month, you get less and less sleep, you're not going to be on point. So it should be one of the main priorities.
So you got 2 choices. You can get 8 hours of sleep, or you can get that workout in. What are you choosing?
Both.
Okay, so you're gonna work out and then just sleep in an hour later.
Why do you?
Okay.
I mean,
because I'm catching myself like, I can't go
first thing in the
work out
morning,
at 10 o'clock, 11
First thing
o'clock.
in the morning, work out.
That's the goal. That's the
Go to
goal.
bed by 10:30. Go to bed by 11. It's hard.
Got things to do. Got things to do.
You can't get them all done. You
I
can
know,
get them done at a higher performance level.
Yeah, in less time.
In less time.
Yeah.
If you have energy.
Yeah.
And clarity.
Yeah. What about the guy, your guy, E.T., or hip hop preacher?
He gets up at like 3:30 or 4 or
But
something.
what time is he going? Is he going?
9, you know.
So he goes to bed super early. So he's still getting 8 hours.
He's probably getting 6 or 7, you know.
Okay.
But he's going to bed early. Like Tom Bilyeu gets up at 3:30, but he goes to bed at 9 o'clock as well. So he's getting 6.5 hours of sleep or whatever. So I think, you know, 6 minimum. I think it's hard if you're not working out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Possible.
maybe 6.
Yeah.
But if you are training your body with high intensity 4 or 5 times a week, and your mind is just at a high performance rate, constantly going,
Yeah.
you know, the emotional and mental fatigue is almost just as strong as physical fatigue, if not more.
Yeah.
Sitting in an interview for an hour and a half, being present with someone, is fatiguing for me after that. Like once they leave, it's like, it's like your mind needs to unwind. You need to unwind a little bit. So I just think it's a must. And I noticed my health. I started gaining a lot of weight when I stopped sleeping as much, or I was up till 3 a.m. working late because I was just in the zone.
This was Lewis.
Yes,
I listen to podcasts. I know what's going on.
Fat Lewis.
Fat Lewis.
Yeah, I was up till like 3 a.m. every night just working because I just wanted to make money.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just got to do this. But it started to have negative effects. So I think once I started to create these boundaries and structure for my life, I was able to get in the things I needed in the 15 hours a day otherwise. And I made sure that I had an hour, it's really about an hour and a half of time of working out where you're getting ready, you're going to the gym or you're going to your whatever, showering, kind of the whole process of an hour and a half. Like just schedule it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So that you're complete and you can wait and work until 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
If you want to do that.
I'll dread it all day too. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, I'm like, oh man, I still got to go do that. And I'm like,
and then you put it off.
In the morning, and
then you'll skip a day, 2 days, 3 days, and then you're like, well, I had other things to do.
Yeah.
The health and the sleep, in my mind, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I did a speech a few weeks ago at an entrepreneurial business conference, and I talked about the keys to building an online business.
Yeah.
The first key I gave was health.
First, number one.
The first thing is health.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, really? That's
for business?
That's how you're going to build your online business?
Yeah.
Mastering your health. Because we need the energy to compete or to play in business at a high level.
Yeah.
If we want our business to grow, we have to grow. If we're getting, out of shape, we're exhausted, we're getting fatter, how do we expect our business to thrive when we're suffering?
Yeah.
And what's it saying about us? That we aren't as important, our health isn't as important as our business is? Well, look at Steve Jobs. I don't know, what was he in his late 50s? He wasn't even 60, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's
56, 57. He had all the money in the world, one of the richest guys in the world, right? Or his company was, at least. And he said in one of his final days, like, I'm a shell of myself. And I look back at all these things of who I was and what I did. I'm paraphrasing this, how he was like, I put so much energy on things that didn't matter as much as my health. And I guarantee he would have given up all of his money to have a week, a year, whatever, of time to live in a healthy body.
Yeah.
But all the money couldn't save him. He tried with all the best doctors. Everything he tried, it didn't work. So
years of making the wrong choice.
I mean, listen, what he created in his business is going to outlive him, obviously, and it's unbelievable what he's built. But I think he's not here.
Yeah.
What was the price he had to pay to have that? He's dead.
Yeah.
It's sad to say that because I think he was a brilliant guy. But what is he, he sacrificed so much. He could have had how many years left? Who knows? If he stayed healthy 30 years, maybe 40, 50, who knows?
Yeah.
What could he have done in the world? So in a lot of sense, us not taking care of our health is doing a disservice to humanity.
Yeah.
If we're not going to be able to have good, clear energy and be calm when the days we're around, as opposed to being reactive in a negative way, or causing problems as opposed to solving them. And I mean, it's a constant.
Let's go work out. Or
right.
Can we go eat some kale?
Well, listen, it's a constant.
This got super powerful. No, that's amazing. Yeah.
I think Richard Branson says it. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but someone asked him like the key to success in his business. He said fitness. making sure I'm physically fit.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure exactly how he said it, but
Yeah.
fitness, like being fit and having that. And I think that's so true. The more and more I learn about nutrition and emotional fitness, mental fitness, physical fitness, it's just not that hard to either go to the gym, go to a workout class, figure out what works for you, whatever it is. If you can't do it on your own, find a buddy to do it with, where you commit to it, figure out something, a structure, and do it first thing in the morning. If you don't like to do it in the morning, do a break at lunch. If you don't like that, do it at night. Like, it's not saying it's easy. There's always something else you could be doing, but if you're not putting yourself and your health first, I think you're doing a disservice to the world and whoever created you. Whatever you want to believe, you're doing a disservice.
Yeah. Well, I need to go get some sleep and work out. I'll see you later.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is your biggest challenge you feel like right now when you got almost, it seems like being the balance of like having the discipline to do these things and then relationships and different things with
I think the first thing that comes off the top of my mind is sometimes beating myself up like, oh, am I being the best guy that I can be or the best human I can be if I'm not there for certain people in certain moments? Because my mission, I would say that I'm in kind of I would say I'm very unselfish, but also very selfish at the same time.
Yeah. Selfishly unselfish.
Exactly.
Is that a thing?
Like,
I don't know.
I want to serve humanity in the biggest way and give to as many people as possible.
Yeah. What a jerk.
Right?
So selfish.
But in close, personal, intimate relationships, I don't create as much time to be there for those individuals.
Yeah.
Because certain things I don't want to do. There's certain places or things or experiences I don't want to do that they may want to do. And I could really, I'm just like, I need time for me.
Yeah.
And unless it's something I want to do, I don't want to do it at all.
I mean,
so it's hard because I want to show them that I'm supportive. I'm there for them. I make sacrifices. I want to be a good boyfriend. I want to be a good family member, a good friend. But I'm also like,
I want to go to San Fran for 3 days.
Yeah, or just whatever.
Yeah.
Or I just don't want to go to this thing tonight or a dinner with your friends. Like, I just don't care right now because I need to recover. I need to, sleep. I need to recover my mind, or I need to focus on my vision, which is trying to serve more people.
Yeah.
So I battle sometimes with like, maybe I'm just not being the best friend or boyfriend or, son or family member because I'm not taking this time to really be there for the closest people in my life.
Yeah.
But I look at it as like, I don't want to regret not also being fully used up for humanity. So it's kind of my own inner battle of like, how do I balance it, make sure I'm giving to those people close to me so that I kind of give and make sure that they know they feel loved and that I'm here for them.
Yeah.
But also doing what's right for me and my emotions in that moment and not overcommitting or over-sacrificing certain things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that dance.
Yeah.
And
it's tricky, and I don't think anyone ever gets it all figured out. And it's funny because that's something that that when you're someone who's an achiever and a doer, like it's hard not to beat yourself up. I struggle with the same thing of like, that's why I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm like, I just need to probably email this person and call them and it's their birthday, and it's like you can't. Like you're saying, if you don't take care of yourself and recuperate, then you can't go do those things and help those other people. So that's funny. Interesting.
Yeah, I remember interviewing a guy, Jesse LeBeau.
Okay. Great name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He is. He wrote a great book called Living with a SEAL, where he had a Navy SEAL live with him for I think 30 days, and he said, "I wanted you to give me more discipline and give me more mental toughness." And he said, "I have one condition, that anytime I tell you to do something, you have to do it." And he said, "Okay."
That was the SEAL's rule.
The SEAL's
for Jesse.
rule. He was going to live with the guy for 30 days.
Those guys are crazy.
And he's like, "All right, if this is what you really want, then you play by my rules." They had their own rules of okay, I have a certain amount of time with my family, and certain, when I'm with family, you can't have me do this or whatever. He's like, "Okay, under the rest of the time, if I tell you to do something, we got to do it, no matter what it is." So they would go on marathon runs in the middle of the night. They would do push-ups, all whatever, crazy
Ice
stuff.
bath,
Crazy stuff, right? And I'd asked him, I go, "What's a he's also married to a billionaire named Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, the company Spanx. And
big spank guy.
yeah, right. And I asked him, you know, what's a non-negotiable for you? He's got 4 kids, he's got a wife, he's got multiple businesses, he's got a lot going on. I go, what's a non-negotiable? And I believe this is what he said, the amount of time. He goes, I take 3 hours for myself every morning just to do anything I want to do. So it was like a window of time. I think he said 3 hours.
Yeah,
2 or 3 hours.
it's a pretty good chunk of time.
It's a lot of time. With
Right.
4 kids, businesses, a wife, like all these responsibilities. He goes, I take 3 hours for myself where, you know, my wife doesn't tell me anything, my kids, if I want to spend time with them, I do, but it's like I can do anything. I can sit around, I can watch TV, I can hang out with friends.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need that because if I don't fill myself up, then I'm not going to be able to help anyone else.
Yeah.
So that's my time to work out, to do whatever. And I think people forget how to take care of themselves. We feel like we need to be giving to other people. We have these responsibilities as family members, these kids, these bills. And we forget to sleep. We forget to have fun. We forget to play. We forget to have a life.
Yeah.
And so what are we living for if we're just trying to do all these other things all the time, except for forgetting who we are and what we want to do?
Yeah.
So I think listen, you know, some people would say, well, that's easy because he's married to a billionaire. They have money. They have people support.
Yeah.
I get it.
Babysitters, all that. Yeah,
we all have different choices and different responsibilities, but it's figuring out a structure that works for you where you can give yourself some time.
Yeah.
Because if you can't give yourself 3 hours out of 24 hours every single day,
Yeah.
then you don't have a life. And what are you living for?
Yeah. I deserve it. I deserve 3 hours, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least an hour,
if you
right?
if you don't have that perspective, then it's like you're just a slave to everyone else.
Yeah, if you can't give yourself 10% of a day, I don't even know what 3 hours is, what that percentage is, but call it 10% of the day. If you can't do what you want to do for 10% of the day, what's the point?
That's crazy. 3 hours. Good for him. Good for his wife too. So that's that first thing you told your girlfriend, like, so here's the deal. From 7 to 10, I need you just to chill out.
I'm not sure how he structures it or what, you know, how it is, but that's something he said. Give yourself some hours every single day just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to go on a cool trip that I'm very curious about. Was it you went to India and did what exactly?
I went for 2 weeks.
It sounded amazing.
It was amazing. It was about a year ago. I went to India to a meditation kind of facility center. It kind of felt like I was in Malibu, like on the beach. It was like right on the Indian Ocean? The Bay of Bengal, one of those.
Really? That's the kind of vibe it was? Like,
it was like
Malibu
it was kind of
beach?
like, I mean, you were right on the ocean where I was. Yeah, it was amazing. And there was like, you know, it was like a compound. So there was like 10-foot walls around. So you stayed in the compound. And it was like a nice, like retreat looking center type of facility with like dorm rooms and, you know, little cabins and like a main center where they did the classes for the students.
Yeah.
And they had like a cafeteria, and then there was just like a grassy area and the ocean. It was just, the property just happened to be on the ocean.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. You know, you get up at 6 or 7 or whatever, and you're learning meditation techniques, but also philosophy, the science behind breathing, the science behind our body, how our mind and our body is connected, how the breath is connected to the body. And we just learned all these different tools and techniques for ending suffering for ourselves, getting rid of any emotional suffering that we may face, or anxiety or stress. And we can never truly rid ourselves of suffering, but we can be aware of it and step out of it in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's always going to come back at some point. So we can never just be like, okay, I figured out how to end suffering. I'm never going to feel suffering.
Yeah. I did
it's
the course.
Like, you know, it can happen every day to us that we feel like sometimes a little suffering here and there. And so we just learned tools and techniques for how to get rid of it and how to move it back into a what they call a beautiful state of being. So there's really 2 states that we live in: a suffering state or a beautiful.
Don't like that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a state of fear, frustration, anxiety, overwhelm, anger, resentment, lack of forgiveness, uncertainty. All those things is more of a suffering state. And then the other state is a beautiful state. And when I mean state, a state of being, a way that we show up, a way we're experiencing ourselves. And so the goal is to be in a beautiful state as frequently as possible, because in a suffering state, we are unable to be in flow. We're unable to perform our gifts throughout the world. We're unable to have loving, intimate relationships. We're unable to feel free. In a beautiful state of being, we're able to be peaceful in chaos. We're able to love deeply without the fear of loss. We're able to, again, perform as athletes, musicians, writers, poets, speakers at a higher level, because we're not living in this fear of anxiety and worry. We're really focused on a beautiful way of being.
Yeah.
So it was just
Life transformational?
I would
Like, do you feel like it?
Yeah,
like,
it was massive. But again, if you don't practice it, you lose it.
Okay.
So,
Use it or you lose it.
That's it, man. I mean, I got sick actually for like 3 days because I was in Delhi, another city, and I had some food that I shouldn't have eaten probably.
Okay.
And so I got sick in the facility, and I was kind of going through like this meditation training for 2 days, and then I got sick. Then it was like this more spiritual throwing up, like, going
Purging
to the
my
bathroom.
body, surrendering.
It was definitely like I haven't felt this sick in a long time. It was like so achy, I couldn't really walk.
I'm sorry for bringing this up.
Sucked.
I feel like you're having to relive it.
But what I loved about it is, there was a lot of meditation kind of facilitators, and they all live as monks. So it's not this place I went to, there's zero religion involved. Zero talk of God or religion. It's based on science, mindset, philosophy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like any religion, you could go and be fine.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're not like throwing something down your throat like this is what God tells you to do or whatever. It's more like, no, here's the science of your body, and here's how the mind works, and here's how the breath works. So here's what happens as a result when you put these three things together and you do it in a process. Here's the result for your life.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
And so one of the meditation instructors was there by my side a lot of the time because they wanted me to feel comfortable. And I'm sick in another country. There's like,
Yeah. Was there not a lot of Americans?
Yeah, there was other Americans there.
Okay.
But it's like, no one wants to be sick in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I didn't want to go to the hospital, but I was like,
maybe I should.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to have someone by my side teaching me meditation as I was in my like lowest physically, sick moments.
Yeah.
And to see the power of meditation and these techniques, what it did for me, I feel like it helped me feel at ease in the stress and the fear of being sick. I mean, it was throwing up every hour. It was bad. So to have him, it was bad. So to have him really kind of like just see what was possible by him just being so calm.
Yeah.
As I was like sweating and throwing up and just in fear, to see, wow, like how I can transform, even if my body is overwhelmed and stressed and sick, like what I can do with my mind and my breath, how it can help ease that pain. Just that alone was powerful. And just going through the process, I stayed for an extra week to become a meditation teacher as well. So I went through a certification to become a meditation teacher.
Oh, wow.
Which I haven't actually used it. I haven't like taught other people, but I just wanted to understand it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And
another tool on the tool belt.
Yeah, that's it.
So
it's been very powerful. Yeah.
What is your like? Do you have a routine that you do, like a daily thing, or is it when you feel like you're in the wrong state?
This is the thing.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it. So for like the first 6 months afterwards, I was doing it every day religiously, right?
Yeah.
And then I would skip a day here and there, and now it's like I do it once or twice a week.
Okay.
So I kind of go through
still better
phases.
than nothing. But
I go through phases.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I'm not in alignment to my vision or who I want to be or how I want to feel, I do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let me get back into meditation and practice this. I think the best way to master it is to do it when you don't need it. When you're not stressed, right?
Yeah.
It's like keep working out when you do have a six pack or you are in shape. Keep working out.
Maintain. Yeah.
Don't wait until you're out of shape and exhausted. Maintain it. So I try to do that the best I can, but it's just figuring out with the time of the day what's the most important.
Yeah.
So
How long is it?
I do work out every single day and have a trainer that helps me there. And I think the physical working out is a great release from it's a meditative form as well.
Yeah.
So it's like I need to do one or the other.
Yeah.
If I don't work out, then I have to do meditation. I do it for about 12 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not crazy.
No, it's not too much.
So you just are able to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Do the right breathing.
Yeah.
Dude, yoga changed my life.
You doing yoga right now?
I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah.
but I got it, that one on La Brea over there. Moto, it's called Moto now.
Uh-huh.
I started going over there because I had this neck pain. Going back to your health thing, it's like when you have something that's like bothering you, you would give any amount of money you have. Like
to get rid of it.
It changes your whole life. Like when it's affecting like your ability to live day to day, you're like, what is it going to take? Like, I don't care. Like, you're miserable. You know, so I started doing this yoga thing, and I had amazing benefits physically, but the biggest benefit I had was going and sweating for an hour and trying to think only about my breathing, which is the hardest thing ever, because I'm like, I got to go outside and write these 3 ideas down, or I need to text that person, and then how am I going to remember that at the end? So, but when I could, even when I was not doing it very successfully, just being in there an hour away from my phone, focusing on breathing, night and day.
Powerful.
Yeah. The stress and everything, just like a weight lifted off my shoulders. So that's why I was so curious about like your experience, because you were like, it's a pretty hardcore way to do it.
Man.
I was going to go to India and
I want to go back again for another week to just kind of continue to deepen the practice, because I feel like every time I do any type of training like that, it just helps me.
Yeah.
You know, it helps me.
More well-rounded, sharpen the tool.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of switch direction here a little bit. Dude, you're a fierce competitor. I saw you on the basketball court.
Yes.
And you're a bruiser. Like, you're not trying to go around people. You're going right through them. I was like, maybe I should have invited this guy. People are going to want to, like, fight him.
Yeah.
You were getting into it. But I feel like you have a mentality that you've carried over from sports, from being, playing at a high level, competing, which is the most fun thing in the world to me. Going and being able to play and go up against someone like that, it's just fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy for people. But then you've carried that over into your business endeavors. Do you think that is something that people are innately born with, or that can be developed? Because I see this, and I'll tell you why I'm asking. I see this with kids. I'm with kids a lot. I have nephews, and like they're into sports, and we see like they're in the game. They have some talent, right? But we don't push them. Like, if you want to do it, we'll give you all the resources and support you want. If you want to go, we do a lot of tetherball too. We do a lot of other things. We do a lot of fishing. But it's like, are they going to be tough? Because there's just something about, like you're saying earlier, the mindset. Your mindset, that's why it's so cool that you have a guy that's like coaching people on mind, because all things being equal, all of them are on the same workout programs. There'll be a guy that stands out a little bit above the rest, but this is the most important thing, as we know from playing. So it's like looking at my nephews, it's like, we'll see if he's going to be tough and he's going to be able to take a bump and hit him back, but you don't want to I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a parent either. I need to listen to your podcast with the parent expert.
Yeah, I think, I don't think you're born with it. I think it's based on experiences we have. I'm going to speak for myself. My experiences it stemmed from a lot of pain that I wanted to overcome.
Yeah.
I think I developed mental toughness in sports based on a pain that I was looking to not feel anymore. I was bullied a lot. I was, picked last in sports teams. I was made fun of, earlier in my childhood. So I was just like, I didn't want to feel that pain anymore. So it drove me to be mentally tough and physically tough and trained. And I think a lot of people get into certain areas of their life because they're getting out of a pain. They want to master something to not have that pain anymore. And those happen through catalysts and triggers and experiences in life, whether it be through earlier childhood or things that were said to us or done or not done when we're trying to prove something early on. I think a lot of it comes from that, at least from my experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's the greater the pain we've faced, or with the story we tell ourselves about that trigger, the more mentally tough we become.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is the stories we say to ourselves.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, oh, this happened to me, and we can make it the biggest thing in the world that, puts us on a trajectory in our life, or it could just be like, okay, this happened, so what?
Yeah.
It's all based on the story we tell.
Yeah.
And the meaning behind the story for us personally. What happened to me being picked last on a sports team when I was a kid was so much more, I told myself it was so much more meaningful than maybe if you were picked last on a sports team when you were, 10 years old. You might have been like, oh, they were just playing like a prank on me. No big deal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to go out and be myself.
Yeah.
But it's like we tell ourselves different meanings of these stories that happen to us, and it can shape our lives.
Yeah.
It's just based on experiences, catalysts, triggers, things like that.
Yeah. The power of the mind is so incredible. That seems to be a common theme that's been coming up with a lot of these conversations. A guy I want to connect you with, friend Darren, he hosts a couple shows on TV and has a very successful law firm out here. And he was the same thing so he's 50 and he just ran from Santa Monica to Times Square.
Wow.
50 years old.
It's cool.
He's in crazy shape, obviously. And he was overweight little kid, and he went last on this race when he was, I think, like 6th grade, 7th grade, and everyone saw it. It was embarrassing. And he told himself this story of, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
People aren't going to accept me. I'm overweight. And he had, from 13 to 23, a pretty crazy experience with drugs. Basically, was loaded every day, and then was able to turn it around. But it was all because of the story he was telling himself.
Sure.
There's another guy I had a conversation with.
One little experience could shape us, you know?
Yeah, and the other people aren't even thinking anything of it, but we're so worried about what other people think about us all the time. This guy, his name's Shea Hillenbrand. He's a Major League All-Star. And that was his big takeaway from the conversation with him is he told himself this story that his dad and mom didn't love him, that he wasn't good enough, and it was all off this experience. They came in one day when he was 14 and said, hey, we're going to move from California to Arizona, and he was dialed in with his friends, had club baseball teams, and he thought they were doing it because they didn't love him. Well, come full circle, they were doing it so that he could have better opportunity with baseball in Arizona. Yeah. But he told himself this whole other story, made it to the top, is making $20 million, all-star, and he's not even having any relationship with his parents, doesn't even communicate with them. And they're the ones who gave up to make this move. And he said, I realize now it was because of the story I told myself. Yeah, so now I'm on this mission to tell other people, how powerful that can be and to love yourself.
That's it, man. That's it.
So, your story, I feel like, is an underdog story. And we're all about underdogs here. And it's cool because some of the things that you were just saying, I really felt like is a common theme that I believe in. And that's like, when they tell you, I don't know if you ever spoke with other people who have given you advice for like your speaking.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can speak on a lot of different things, right? But what is that one thing that you believe more passionately about anything? And if you were going to do this speech forever, what would it be? And mine is obviously the attitude is everything. So when you're talking about these experiences of people, especially when we're younger and we're impressionable, of like, well, how are you going to respond to getting picked last? Is it going to devastate you and put you in a downward spiral? Or is it going to be like, See, I had the mentality, but it's because I grew up in a different place. There's so many different factors from my family life being different than yours, where I just kind of had the mindset of like, if anyone can't me, well, I'll show you, screw you, like I'm going to show you. But it's probably because I'm little, and little guys, we all kind of have a chip on our shoulder. Sure. And so I always had this thing where I felt like I had to prove myself, and I did some pretty cool things. But looking back, I wish I liked that I did them, but I wish I would have done it with a different mentality and mindset. And that's been a transition into adulthood, if you will. We can consider me an adult at this point, of like doing things for the right reason and not doing them for the wrong reason. Because, it's great to like prove someone wrong or like be able to like, well, check me out now. But I don't think that's a healthy way to live or the right way to live.
I grew up wanting to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, and it's a great motivation.
It helped me achieve so many things, but it left me feeling very unfulfilled every time I achieved.
Yes.
Until literally, years ago, I was realized like, wow, I've been doing all these things to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And I finally was aware of that.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what would life look like if I started doing it to inspire others or to lift others up?
Yeah.
It just left me with so much more fulfillment and joy and love. In the process of training and working hard, it wasn't this like grind anymore. It was like a funner process.
Yeah.
A lighter process.
Yeah.
And it felt so much more rewarding in my journey, lifting others up as opposed to trying to prove two kids wrong from 20 years ago or whatever, who probably weren't even, aware of what they were doing. So it's been a lot more fun, that's for sure.
You started off as a little guy in Ohio.
Yeah.
And like you said, you were picked last.
I was picked last. I was bullied a lot. I was always in the special needs classes, so I had a very poor reading level. When I went to 8th grade, They tested me at a second grade reading level. So it was just always hard for me to understand concepts from textbooks. Nothing was interesting to me, so it was hard to like read, comprehend, remember what I was reading.
Yeah.
Math, it was just all confusing, to be honest. Like every class.
Yeah.
Except for, gym or whatever.
Yeah. And were you always big?
I was always tall and skinny, so I was
you
just
would
made
go
fun
thrive in
because
gym.
I was like lanky and skinny though, so I was kind of goofy, right?
Yeah. You figured out how this body works.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I just didn't really have any friends because I was kind of goofy and tall looking. I was in these special needs classes and just didn't really connect with many people for some reason. I think every kid feels this on some level, where they felt like they were an outsider, or they didn't have friends, or they didn't connect, or they weren't smart enough. I think we all experienced that. So I don't think my story is that unique. It was just like, it was a really painful experience for me. At the same time, my parents were fighting and constantly arguing, which really isn't unique to me because I feel like every kid's parents did that as well, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But my brother also went to prison when I was 8 years old until I was 12. So for 4 years when I couldn't read and write, was in the special needs classes, my parents were arguing and fighting a lot, so I didn't really have the connection with them I wanted. My brother was also in prison, who was my hero. He was 11 years older than me. Yeah. And so the neighborhood parents wouldn't allow their kids to hang out with me because my brother was in prison. So they thought I was a bad
apple. We can't associate.
So it was just kind of like, again, listen, I'm a white man in America, so it's like just alone, I had a lot of other privileges that a lot of people didn't have, and I had a home and I had food, and like I get it, I had certain things, but my inner story and conversation and battle was a massive struggle for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the tools and the awareness of how to like get out of this emotional battle. So it was just a very lonely, scary childhood for me, where I didn't feel like anyone was on my side. I didn't feel like I had siblings who cared about me, my parents. Yeah, they loved me and they were there for me, but I just didn't receive it. I didn't understand it. I didn't grasp it because I was so afraid of everything else, of their arguing, of my brother away in prison, not having friends. I was in my own head all the time. So even though my dad tucked me in and like played catch with me and told me he loved me, it was just still fearful.
Okay.
And I just felt alone, always.
Yeah. And your brother was your hero, you said?
Yeah, he's one of my heroes, you know what I mean?
Same with me. That's the reason I played basketball. My brother was like the little star basketball. I'd go to the games and everyone would cheer when he hit 3-point. I'm like, oh, so to have him taken away during that age would have been...
Yeah, it was tough.
It would have been crazy,
It was tough. And so, it's just like, I just always felt alone. I always felt like no one cared about me and then no one loved me, is what I felt. It was a story I told myself. So I decided to do something about it. There were many days when I would get sent to the principal's office for getting in trouble because I would act up and I would tell the principal, like, I just wish I were dead. I would say this to them over and over, like, I wish I were dead.
Oh, jeez.
And I didn't realize how, like, significant this was.
You can't be doing that, man.
But I know, right? I didn't realize it was that significant. But I guess that's just where I was at in my life. In my early development, that's just where emotionally I was at.
Yeah.
Where I just really felt like no one cared about me and no one understood me. And I was just like, why am I here? And I just wish I were dead.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I used to say
this. Which is a hit song right now. Have you heard that song? Oh, my friends are dead. That's like,
really?
Yeah. I'm like, how is this like a song?
It's crazy.
It's so catchy though.
Is it?
We don't endorse it though. But yeah, you could have been a hit songwriter today.
Right, exactly. And I just decided to train. I just said, okay, I've got all this free I was alone every day after school. And I just said, I'm going to train myself to be valuable in the world. Like, I'm going to train. And originally it started from sports and just playing. I was like, I just want to be accepted in the playground. That's what I wanted, to be accepted on the playground and on sports teams, to not be picked last every time like it was happening. So what do I need to do? I need to train. I need to get bigger, faster, stronger. I need to be more skilled in every sport that I was playing. At the time, I was playing a lot of basketball. So I was just at the gym shooting hoops for hours after class.
Yeah.
By myself, until I started to get good and I'd play in pickup games and I was like, oh, well, I actually scored a few points and got some rebounds and people had
they want me on their team.
They saw value in me.
Yeah,
they started picking me.
Yeah.
And then I started becoming like the most valuable player on the team. And then I started like dominating. And then I was just like, had this belief and confidence, like, wow, people want me on their team. I'm getting results. I'm growing into this awkward body. You know what I mean? I'm getting older. I'm a starter now as a freshman in the junior varsity, and then as a sophomore, I was a starter on the varsity, and it's just like, wow, I can do this. And look at the results I'm getting. People like me now.
Yeah.
Because I've got some talent. And so for me, it was just like, let me get better. Let me get better every day, so I don't go back to a lonely place of being alone.
Yeah.
And so that was my life for 15 years, was just training to be a better and to achieve and try to be a college athlete, then a pro athlete, and to really be accepted in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all want, is acceptance. Whether it was you, it's like this smaller underdog wanting to be accepted on a team and in the world of what you're doing now. It's the same thing with what I wanted. And again, it worked for me until it didn't, when I realized like my inner battle was still there. Like I was still unfulfilled and fearful and frustrated and mad and resentful about stuff. And I was like, why? So it wasn't until years ago when I started to realize like, wow, I've been doing all this in spite of someone or people or to prove something or whatever. It just wasn't serving me anymore, emotionally, mentally.
Yeah.
So I started to do the work on myself to really just love myself for who I am, not for my identity or my talents, but who I am, and that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, like how sometimes those, you go through those experiences. So, because not everyone knows your story, you went after college, had an amazing college career, set records, like did all these things, and then you were playing arena football, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I got injured in my rookie season.
Yeah. And so now all of a sudden you're at this low point.
Yeah.
The thing that has been your whole identity, like we were talking about our self-story, being an athlete, playing football, all of a sudden it's taken away from you.
Yeah.
And you're at kind of rock bottom.
Yeah, I was living on my sister's couch for 2 years, well, a year and a half, while I was recovering from this surgery I had on my wrist. Broke my wrist and had surgery right here. And was kind of like figuring out, who am I in this moment? Like, I've always been an athlete, but now I'm not one anymore.
Yeah.
So what do I do the rest of my life? And I know you felt this probably when you were done playing basketball at a competitive level. It's like, what do we do for the rest of our lives? Or for the next few years, whatever.
Yeah.
And
how do I get off this couch?
Well, and again, like, how do I find my identity? Because if I'm known for being this thing that I'm no longer anymore, then who am I?
Yeah.
And so that's a scary place. That's why a lot of athletes struggle when they retire, especially at the highest level.
Yeah.
They go through a lot of depression, some suicide, when they were at the top of the game in their sport. It's like, once that's stripped of our identity, who are we? If we have nothing else to fall back on, who are we? So it's like a whole new process of like rebirth, in a sense, rediscovery of who we are and who we want to be for the rest of our lives or for the next stage of our lives. So for me, it was that struggle of trying to figure out, like, I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have really any other talents. I didn't think I was that smart at the time. So I had to figure out, like, who am I and what am I going to do? I started mastering these different skills. Public speaking, I went to public speaking class every week for a year because I had a fear and pain of speaking in front of an audience. And I didn't want to have that pain. Yeah. So that drove me. I didn't want to feel the pain.
Terrifying.
So it drove me to master it and overcome it, or at least embrace it. I started doing salsa dancing classes 3-4 times a week. I was like, I just want to learn how to not be afraid to dance.
Yeah.
I want to be able to dance and not be like scared in the corner, like saying no to people. I just started picking up these skills. I started reading more. I started writing. I started doing things I wasn't comfortable with. And I started to grow in that process. I started learning online marketing, business. I just tried to figure out any new skill I wanted to learn. And I was like, this is all the stuff I wish I would have learned when I was like 5 to 20, right?
Yeah.
That they didn't teach me in school.
Yeah, 100%.
But once I found an interest in the topic, then I could become obsessed with learning it. But I didn't care about the topics in school growing up, so I was just like, it was hard for me to comprehend. So that just took me on a journey for a few years of figuring out the whole online marketing world and business, and started launching some programs on social media and doing well in that business, and eventually sold that company. And then I was at a new crossroads where I was like, well, what do I want to do now? This identity is over. What am I doing now? And that's when the School of Greatness started about 4.5, 5 years ago. Yeah. It's like, I really want to make an impact and I want to lift people up. And I think the stage before that, it was just like, I need to make as much money as possible because I was broke. Yeah. So that was kind of that phase of like, let's just make money. Yeah. And you did well. You sold like a company, right? Yeah, sold a company for $1 million, and it was like... How old were you at that point? 27 or something? Yeah, like 20, 28 maybe? Yeah.
And then that led you.
But it was like it wasn't fulfilling. And so I was like,
Yeah.
what's the thing that is fulfilling and can make me money?
Yeah.
That has a bigger impact. And that's when I was like, I love talking to people and having these conversations. And I think the world needs to hear more of these positive conversations. So I was like, well, let me start a podcast, because that was kind of coming around. And
Yeah. It's a new thing.
now we are 4.5 years later. It's stemmed from just a once-a-week podcast to a book to courses, programs, events, speaking, all the whole thing. So.
Yeah. No, man, it's really been incredible to watch you build this in real time.
Thanks, man.
Because you were still doing it, but now it's just a higher level.
Yeah.
And the cool thing, taken away from your story just now, is like, if you hadn't had this injury, which at the time was like earth-shattering and devastating, you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing now.
way.
In which,
was the
and I've
greatest
talked
thing
this
for me.
conversation with a lot of people. It's like,
Yeah.
you're a great athlete or you're a successful business, but what you're doing with this is arguably, to me, much more valuable and much more amazing of an existence and an impact and imprint on the world.
Yeah.
And it's taking that thing that is your hard moment, and how do I bounce back? Like, what can I turn this around?
Exactly, and it's telling myself a different story about it.
Yeah.
Not that it was the worst thing in the world for me, but the thing that was the worst thing is the best thing. So it's telling myself that story.
Yeah.
Same thing with if you're going through a breakup or a challenging time in life. It's like, okay, this can be this horrible thing, or let me reframe it, tell myself a different story, and say, this is actually just feedback for me to change my life in a different way, that something better can come from this.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, so you got a second book now. The first one was a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
No pressure. You have to live up to that again, right?
Exactly.
If the first one does, the second one's got to do it, or else it's like he fell off.
I got to give my best. We'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm not attached, but yeah.
So how did this concept come? Because this seems much different. And is it from kind of some of these life experiences that we've touched on?
Exactly.
Tell me the exact title so I don't butcher
It's called The Mask of Masculinity.
Okay.
Yep. And it's, a lot of stuff we talked about. I realized, not even just as a man, but as a human being, I was doing things that were hurting relationships. I was doing things to prove people wrong. I was doing things for me to be right and them to be wrong.
Guilty,
right?
check.
I was doing things for me to win, which meant everyone else had to lose.
Yeah.
And in sports, if I didn't win, then I felt like a loser.
Yeah.
And I was nasty, and I was mean, and I was upsetting.
Yeah. I can't see you being nasty and mean. Although I did hear a story about you playing pickup ball.
And
those are over here, right? Yeah. We won't go there. But
Yeah.
I like that stuff. Like, I like that competitive. Like, I kind of, sometimes when I don't have it, I feel like I kind of like try to create it. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm too old. I don't need to be fighting people. Anyways.
And what I realized is that, listen, this book is for all human beings, but I'm speaking from a man's point of view. And there's so much I've learned about masculinity, femininity, men, women, gender, non-conforming human beings in this process.
Yeah.
This is for men who feel like they aren't fully fulfilled and haven't reached a level of performance, potential, but also quality relationships in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So for men that feel like there's been something that's been holding them back, and they can't really put their finger on it. Maybe they're not sure what it is. Or they feel like, man, why do I get angry or upset or frustrated, or why am I resentful or vengeful in these instances that come up in my life? Or why am I stoic and don't show emotion? Or why am I so driven to make money? Or why do I need to conquer every woman in the world sexually? Or whatever it is that we do, we need to ask ourselves, is this making us, leaving the biggest impact on the world, and is this supporting us emotionally and the relationships in our lives?
Yeah.
And if it's not, if you're hurting, if you're suffering, then something is happening that's not working. So this was to address all those things that could be happening to you that are hurting you or holding you back from your true potential and your greatness. So I'm writing this book for men to understand ourselves better as men.
Yeah.
And to see what's in the way from us to achieve bigger results in all areas of life. If you want more money, what's in the way? If you want to have a deeper relationship, what's in the way? If you feel like you're not hitting, you're not meaning as much as you want, you're not as fulfilled, then what's in the way? It's also for women to understand the men in their lives better. Because I think a lot of women...
on the flip side. Yeah. How come I can't figure this guy out?
So at the end of every chapter, I realized, like, wow, this is actually going to be probably more beneficial for women than for the men that maybe won't read this.
You're like Steve Harvey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
okay, so you have both. It can appeal to.
So the chapters are written
audiences.
for men, but if a woman's reading it, they can be like, "Wow, that's exactly like my brother, or that's exactly like my uncle, or father, or husband, or son." So they're going to be able to understand like why they've been conditioned to react or be a certain way through life.
Yeah.
And then there's tools for men on how they can drop these certain, what I call masks. These things that are in our way that hold us back from being our true self.
Yeah.
The mask that we project to the world.
The ego.
Yeah, all those
other
things.
types of stuff.
Yeah. So for men, it teaches men how to let go of the mask and still feel safe and comfortable as who they are. And for women, it shows them processes on how to get men to take the mask off without making them wrong. Because I think from my experience of interviewing a lot of men, they feel like they need to protect themselves more from female to male relationships because they feel like they're being wronged for who they are.
Yeah.
If they're not doing something, if they are doing something, it's like sometimes women make them wrong.
Yeah.
So therefore they put the mask on even stronger. So if you want a man to really fully be his true authentic self and open up and be loving and vulnerable, you need to be able to accept him and acknowledge him and allow him to take his mask off without making him wrong. Otherwise, he's probably not going to want to take it off.
Yeah.
He's
Or
gonna
like you said,
protect
even
himself.
get more hostile.
Might get more hostile, fight
Yeah.
back,
Wow.
defend himself.
How did you come to this, like the idea for this one? Because
Everything
it is
I
a little
do-
bit different direction
Yeah.
than the last one.
Everything I do stems from a pain
Okay.
or
Yeah.
a challenge
Yeah.
or
Be a great
something I'm
music
curious.
artist.
You're right.
Yeah.
Something I'm curious about. And so for me, it
Yeah.
was like 4 years ago when I started kind of doing this self-discovery journey, I realized like I was still angry and resentful and unforgiving of so many people, things, and experiences in my life from years ago.
Yeah.
And this is when this fight happened in West Hollywood, in the mean streets of West Hollywood.
The mean streets.
Where I got in a fight on a basketball court
Yeah.
with a no-stakes pickup basketball game, right?
You're
It
like,
was just
why? Dude, yes.
what's the
like,
point?
Why? Were we trying to be the open gym player of the year? I'm always
Yeah.
like, what am I
It's
doing?
so
I always
stupid.
find myself in that situation
Yeah.
like, this is dumb. But
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need it. Someone's
I
getting
mean,
hurt.
I can be super competitive, but it doesn't need to get
Yeah.
into violence, you know,
Yeah,
or like
yeah, yeah,
reacting. And so that's when I really started to look at myself and be like, why am I so angry in certain situations? Not normally a loving, fun guy, but why am
Yeah.
I angry, resentful, frustrated, unforgiving?
Yeah.
And I just started to really dive in deep and look at every moment in my life of like what I'm still holding on to and why I've been trying to prove people wrong as opposed to lift other people up.
Yeah.
So I started to just open up about everything in my life and talk about all the instances in my life and people that I felt hurt by or frustrated with and just let it go and started to forgive all the other people that I felt did or didn't do something to me. And then forgive the most important person, which is myself.
Yeah.
Because if I can't forgive
powerful.
myself, how am I going to live with peace? So I just started to let go of these things and I realized, wow, so many men, not just myself, are living with these masks and this pain and this suffering and this pressure and this weight.
Yeah.
Now listen, I get it. There's men have privileges and all these other things, like I get it. But there's still a lot of pressures and things that men go through. Men commit more suicide than women because of the pressures, the anxiety, and the stress. And I'm like, women don't understand how much more men commit suicide. Men are also, 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused. You know, it's a lot of pressure.
Wow.
And there's not outlets to communicate or go through a process of grieving for men like there are for women.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easier for women.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's,
either way.
it
Horrible
sucks.
thing, yeah.
But I feel like it's not as socially available for men to express themselves.
Yeah.
And listen, it still doesn't mean we shouldn't be responsible for ourselves and for like figuring these things out, but it's a challenge. And so I think with society, with sports, with other boys and peers constantly name calling and the pressures of society with boys, we've grown up in general with a lack of emotional intelligence and a lack of being able to express ourselves.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of men who do it extremely well.
Yeah, yeah. And the rest of us who are like,
Right.
I'm just going to hit this guy in the
Exactly.
jaw and it'll make me feel better. Yeah.
And so I wanted to create the book for the men who are like me, who
Yeah.
struggle with that growing up. You know, this was a journey for me to understand how to heal myself.
Yeah.
Everything
Gosh,
I do
there you
is,
go being selfish again.
Exactly.
Gosh,
It's
this
all a
guy's so
journey
selfish.
it's a journey for me, but then also want to share the lessons for others to help as well.
100%.
And it was a powerful discovery, man. And it's especially now in our political aid, our state, our racial state, our
Yeah.
gender state, just like right
Crazy
now.
times. Yeah, this is
crazy
crazy
times.
times.
That
On
I feel
all
like
fronts.
it's important conversation to have.
Yeah.
And all I want to make sure is we have the conversation and people start to heal. Again, it's not a men versus women thing. This is a human thing
Yeah.
for all humans
Yeah.
and gender nonconforming as well. It's like, how do we be a better human being to let go of our masks so that we can connect and have deeper, meaningful relationships and not fight and be in conflict.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is what happens with relationships between men and women,
Yeah.
relationships between men and men, relationships between black and white,
Yeah.
relationships between whatever. It's
Yeah.
like we're afraid to take off the mask and connect. And it's what causes conflict within ourselves and with others.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping to be a small piece of the conversation for that.
Dude, it sounds amazing. Like I'm
Thanks.
excited to check it out. That's
Thanks.
I mean, I didn't know as much, so this is really
Yeah.
cool to hear firsthand. Now, my question to you to follow up to this is, did you have any fears in putting a book out like this out? Because I feel like it makes you so vulnerable.
Massive fears,
I would
man.
like, I'm like, this is me. This is how
I'm still
selfish I am.
terrified.
I'm like, are people gonna think like
Dude.
I'm a sissy boy who's sensitive and take off your mask? Like, so I mean, it's a very vulnerable, which is always the most powerful place to come from.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about the book for a while. It comes out in a couple months, but I've been talking about it for a while, and it's almost like,
Massive.
well, here's the thing. It's like I could have, men looking at me a certain way. Some women are super supportive and like, yes, this is everything we need because
Yeah.
not enough men are talking about this.
Yeah.
Other extreme, like feminist women are like, who are you to talk? You're this white male privilege thing. And it's kind of like,
You just have to ignore them.
there's all these people that have, people that are loving it and people that are just like, can't win with anyone, it's like, try to do the best that I can and
Focus on the good, man.
That's it, man.
I
Yeah.
mean, look at Tony Robbins, a guy who you spent time around.
yeah.
I feel like he's like a lot of politicians or public figures. Half the people love him.
Yeah.
Half the people hate him. How could you be mad at a guy that, like Tony Robbins,
Tries to
who's
help
serving
people.
people, and they're like, well, it's self-serving. It's like, well, that sounds like some issues that you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
work on, and maybe you need to read The Mask of
Yeah,
Masculinity.
exactly.
So as a sports guy, competitive, what's one thing that you've taken away from sports? That's something that I always enjoyed, and me and my dad used to bond and connect over different sports, but baseball was one a lot. The Little League years were a lot of fun. We came a few games short of going to the Little League World Series, which was like the most exciting summer of my life.
That's
we got to
cool.
go and play in these big stadiums. Never had played on grass before growing
That's
up in
cool.
Alaska. And that's one thing that I think people miss today is like parents are pushing kids to be the next Tiger or Serena Williams
Yeah.
and get 10,000 hours by the time they're 10. And they miss like the big scope of sports are really there to teach us a bigger life lesson and
Yeah.
to help us in life. And most kids aren't going to go like, I had a dream to be in the NBA, 100%. But then I got real with myself as I got a little older. I was like, yeah, physically I might not have the
Yeah.
body for that, but I can tweak that dream and still do something with basketball.
Yeah.
And then I've created this and doing something that's kind of more fulfilling. We know different
Sure.
athletes and there's a lot of temptation. They're on the road a
Yeah.
lot. Yes, there's a lot of great things, but there's also, a stake to be paid for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that you have taken away and applied to the rest of your life as just relationships or business,
From
is
sports?
there one thing that stands out to you?
From sports
Mm-hmm.
to life, I mean, for me, it's simple. You can't do anything great on your own. You can't win on your own. You can't create on your own. It takes a team to get you there. Even if you're in a solo sport, you have a team of people helping you. And same thing in life. Even if you're just by yourself, you feel like you're alone. There's a lot of things you're learning from other people or people who are supporting you in order to get you to a great place.
Yeah.
We need people in our lives to learn, to heal, to discover, and to create. And so
Yeah.
I think if you want to be great, you can't do it on your own. Find a great team around you.
Yeah. From the guy who was isolated and now he's got the team around him. I love it.
Exactly.
So if you were going to go back to talk to young Lewis,
Uh-huh.
maybe it was Lewis at this point, I don't know,
Yes.
but you had just gotten not picked
Uh-huh.
for that team or
Yeah.
whatever it was at recess or lunch. What would be the one piece of advice now that you've had some life experiences, you've had some ups and downs that you would give the younger version of you moving ahead?
I don't know if I would listen to the advice from myself.
Okay.
So I would say the advice I would give, but I don't know if it would have registered because there's just not many things I was open to listening to. But let's say I did listen to it.
Okay. Oh, you're saying that you wouldn't, being the kid, you
If I was the kid, it wouldn't
I'm
matter.
not listening to this guy.
You know what I mean?
What does he know?
Yeah, it didn't matter.
100%.
Because I was so like
100%.
defensive and guarded. I was just like,
I know better than you.
exactly.
Yeah.
But let's say I did listen to it.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Let's say I was like open to it. I would have said, little Lewis, I would have said, listen, you're going through a really awkward, challenging time right now, and it may be this way for a while. And there's going to be different instances in your life that are going to be very challenging. The one thing you can control is how you respond to situations. You can't control what happens to you or for you or however you want to look at it. But you can control your energy, and as you like to talk about, your attitude on how you want to respond to this. So you were picked last. Okay, it sucks. Feel the pain. Why don't you want to be picked last anymore? I'd ask those questions and try to get out some type of response from little Lewis. And then I'd say, listen, you have a choice point right now. You can do everything from this point to try to hurt these kids or get back to them or revenge. And that'll take you pretty far, but it won't make you great. So if you want to be truly accepted in the world and be loved in the world, you can't do that. Because you're going to be miserable trying to prove these kids or anyone wrong who tries to attack you for the rest of your life. So if you want to be average, do that. But if you want to be truly great, you need to learn to embrace this situation, accept it for where it's at, and come from a place of how can I better myself? How can I focus on the good in my life? How can I find other kids in class who I want to help as well? And come from a place of win-win and love to bettering yourself as opposed to win-lose and hate, because that'll take you that much farther.
Yeah. Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Last thing, I promise.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess we said it was 3 weeks ago, we were speaking in schools. We were in Arizona. I was getting in front of a lot of kids, and we're shooting a new pilot for the show. And so last night I'm watching the new edit of it, and we met a really special kid out there. His name is Josh, and he comes from a really tough background. Family's trying to figure it out. He loves basketball, and he just doesn't have the opportunity. And he's actually got some good size, and I think might be pretty talented. So his mother drives him all the way to our event to be able to be a part of me speaking and the whole experience. And they don't have AC. It's about 115 or 10. It's really hot out in Arizona in August, apparently. We didn't plan that well. And they don't have AC in their car. Well, the kid goes, well, you know what, Mom? I'll put ice in this bag and I'll hold it on your neck for the 40-minute drive to get there. So he comes, we sit down, and as I'm watching the editing of this film, I talk with the mom. She's in tears, telling us all these horrible, horrific things that have happened to the family. And then she steps out, and Josh steps in, and I get to sit down with him. And as much as he's gone through, his eyes are bright, he's excited, and he's just pumped up at the ability that maybe we'll get to do some basketball or somehow we can do something for him. And as I'm watching this, I say something to the extent, we're going back and forth, of, I believe greatness is every day pursuing to be a little bit better than you were the day before, while helping people in the process to be able to do the same thing. And since this is the bus of greatness now, I hear you ask that question of what is your definition of greatness? And in my mind, as I was watching this, I'm like, where did I pull that from?
Right.
And I think it's from listening to your podcast. I was answering, well, what would I answer if Lewis asked me that question? And it was a really special moment with this kid. And the stuff that you're doing is not just, impacting a lot of people, but it has personally impacted me. And by proxy is spreading to other people in other parts of the country. And so this ripple effect that you've created is really special, and it's personal for me.
Thanks, man.
Because it's impacting the work that I'm doing.
Right.
So, man, I appreciate it. And I don't think I've ever heard you say what your definition of greatness is. I don't know if that's something you do intentionally, but if you have one, I feel like you probably do. I would love to hear it, because I'm always like, well, you always ask him, what's his?
Yeah. For me, it's discovering the unique gifts and talents within us in the pursuit of our dreams, and in that pursuit, making the maximum impact on the people around us that we can. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good for the guy who is the School of Greatness, man. I appreciate you. We're now officially the bus, the motorhome of
Bus of
greatness.
greatness, I like it.
We're the bus of greatness, man. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to see where all this goes for you.
Thanks, man.
Just a
Appreciate it.
fan.